bring up the diamond silk stuff and
I got the diamond.
talk.
I got that right here. Oh, that's I got that below this.
See, look.
That's weird.
Yeah. What's up, puppy dog?
Come here, Melly. Get over here. See, I can't see the numbers on this like I do. Let me do something. Go to view broadcast. So then I can see see, because I want to be able to see that.
Yeah, and then comments you can answer, right?
Yeah, yeah, when they have them. Let me share this.
I wish I could have seen this that island last year.
It's got a long way.
And it's got a split. Sounds a big one.
Oh, that's nice. I think I could be all like that. Alright. We'll go ahead and start it. There's not many people on it, but let me see something. So somebody did retweet it.
Or if it came in and came right back out, maybe.
Why is it frozen? See how it's frozen?
Uh-huh.
Okay, why is it frozen? Is it frozen here? Alright, we'll start this in just a minute when I can get some of the kinks worked out. Maybe I need to, maybe it's just frozen on my part. Okay. Alright, we'll start this in just a minute when I can get some of these kinks worked out. So we're going to see it like way lapsed, so.
Mine's going to be right on it.
Yeah, alright, we'll just have to deal with it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of March of Ides. the April edition. Last month we started um, the Ides of March Periscope to talk about Trump and the good news that the mainstream media won't talk to you about, and we were just going to continue that on. That tradition every month. Hold on. The next edition of March of Ides. The April edition. Last month we started. Okay, that's going to be a problem. The Ides of
The
March.
volume.
Periscope to talk about Trump and the good
Because of
news
that, it's going to be like having a reverb or
mainstream media
something.
won't talk to you about, and we were just going to continue that on. That tradition every month. How can I fix that?
Why don't you turn your volume down?
But then,
Well,
we won't. I'm not sure. Okay.
maybe just try to ignore it.
Yeah. You don't think it's going to interfere with the Periscope? Like,
Oh, yeah, because they'll hear it too. Like that.
is there a way? Hold on, let me get on here. I'm not sure.
Try turning your volume down. And then, but the mic is still up.
It is? And you think it'll still be going on
Let me
Periscope?
check.
Let me ask if anybody's watching on Periscope, if they can tell me. Let me refresh this. If anyone's out there listening, can you hear me talking? Trying something different on my Mac using OBS, and I'm not sure people can hear me. Can you hear?
Trying to see if I pulled you up at all. Yes.
You can hear me.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Okay, so then, all right, then let me start this over. We started doing an Ides of March Periscope last month to talk about good news about Trump that the mainstream media won't talk about, and to talk about a lot of the things that have happened in the past on the Ides of March. It's just kind of interesting, and so every month has an Ides, doesn't necessarily fall on the 15th. And in April, it's actually on the 13th, but we're doing this a couple of days earlier, just because. And this month, we wanted to talk about Trump news versus fake news. You know, everything that's going on with the mainstream media these days with fake news, you know, them trying to label alternative media fake news to take us down and discredit us, has backfired and flipped on them as an epic fail on their part. But this problem with fake news that we have going on it's been going on for decades. And I know a lot of you know about Walter Duranty, who won the Pulitzer for the New York Times for covering up genocide in the Ukraine and starvation in Russia. But a lot of you, I wonder if you've ever heard about Janet Cook. Washington Post has their own, I wouldn't say Walter Duranty, she wasn't exactly covering up genocide, but it was kind of a big deal. It was in 1981.
83, I think, maybe.
She wrote an article called Jimmy's Story. I think it was called Jimmy's Story. I've got the link up here. Yeah, she wrote a story called Jimmy's Story. It was about a 8-year-old boy who was addicted to heroin and who had become addicted at the age of 5 or 5 years old, and um, anyway, she won the Pulitzer on April 13th,
Back
19.
in the 80s. I
Yeah,
think it was
it was
83,
it's
though.
81 or 83, and then I think it was 2 days later that Pulitzer was rescinded when they figured out that it was all fake. And a lot of people don't know that Bob Woodward of Watergate fame is the one that submitted her story for the Pulitzer, because at the time he was the assistant editor for the Washington Post. And the story started to unravel when she won the Pulitzer, and she claimed in her background that she had graduated magna cum laude from Vassar. I think it was Vassar.
Mm-hmm.
And Vassar started looking at their records, and they made a phone call to Bob Woodward telling him that she attended there 1 year. It was her freshman year, and ended up graduating from Toledo University,
Yeah.
Toledo College. So her background education started unraveling that whole story. But what was interesting is how Bob Woodward,
How he responded to that. I mean, everything was a lie about this, but people wanted to believe it. And this happened in D.C., where the famous Marion Barry of crack cocaine fame actually put out that they found this kid after the story broke, and that he's in treatment, but the kid didn't exist. And then he had to backtrack and cover his tracks. But Bob Woodward had no tracks to cover. He felt that he did nothing wrong. He said he had no problem with putting that story up for the Pulitzer Prize, and said it was ludicrous to think that he should even check the veracity of stories that go to get nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. So his little fake news mantra, the way he's been doing his job, it goes back a long time.
Decades.
He's basically he's terrible.
and it wasn't just him. It was Ben Bradley. He was the whatever you call
I
it, the
think
managing
editor.
What did he say?
They all tried to back her up at the beginning of when this thing unraveled, but it just unraveled so quickly. And that's amazing that it happened so quickly back in the 80s when we didn't have social media like we do now.
Right. I mean, that story unraveled in 2 days, Pulitzer. And as far as like Walter Durante, I don't think his Pulitzer was it?
No, I think he still has, or he's not alive.
And that just, I'll bring that up because the fake news, you think about this week when they raided, the FBI raided the offices of Trump's attorney. The big story, was it just yesterday? Everything just goes
It
by
happened
so
Monday,
fast.
and then Tuesday you started finding out that no, it was not a Trump appointee who signed off on this raid, and it was a magistrate that was in there because again, another Trump appointee is recused from investigating this stuff, and I'm at a loss.
And that kind of fake news, the mainstream media tries desperately. A lot of people think it's incompetence and ignorance, but it's not. It's intentional. I don't know if some of these media outlets like Huffington Post or BuzzFeed, if they know they're putting out fake news, or if they're just part of this journalist that gets their talking points. But I just want to remind people that when breaking news comes across the wire, to just give it a little bit of time, because there's going to be a correction.
Right.
They're gonna retract their fake news, but they've got what they wanted. That there's a lot of people that aren't going to see the correction. They're not going to hear the correction.
And part of it, I believe, is their direction to their true believers, to keep them stoked up. But I think it's also to demoralize people like us, people that are MAGA, people that support Trump. And I think a huge lesson to be learned, especially in the last year and 2 months or so, is don't believe the first reports, no matter what the source. I mean, Hannity can get stuff wrong. Fox gets stuff wrong all the time too. And it's not just these all the mainstream media are always getting things wrong. But don't believe those first reports. And they sound so so serious and so legitimate on the front end, because they're trained to do that. They're trained to look like they're right all the time, and I mean their job is to look good on TV while they're telling these lies, basically. So, big lesson is don't listen to the first reports and wait for the backtracking to come
Yeah,
in.
wait for the correction, because I mean it's almost happening just every day. Um, the biggest part of that story raiding Cohen's office was about it being a Trump nominee, and it turns out it was an Obama nominee. Um, so, Lou's right. You can't let this news get to you or demoralize you, because at this point, that is all the mainstream media is there for, is to demoralize, discourage, and also to spread their campaigns of disinformation. At this point, the fake news has become. I think Trump one time said that the mainstream media was an enemy of the people, and gosh, he was so right. They are an enemy of the people. Um,
Well, and there's, even while all this negative stuff is going on, and it looks so bad because it looks like the whole country agrees with what the media is reporting, Trump's going about doing business every day and doing the things he said he was going to do when he was campaigning. He's I can't, he's not blocking it out because he does respond to some of this, but he's trudging away. He gets up before most of us do, and he gets to work, and he's just doing stuff every day. He issued a great executive order yesterday.
oh yeah, yeah. Some of the hey, you've got a troll. Check out this comment.
What does it say?
It says more concerning one false printed story 35 years ago or 5 lies per day by Trump. How about the lies that were put out yesterday that it was a Trump appointee that okayed the raid on Cohen's office? It was actually Rosenstein
That's all you've got.
that's responsible for that. So that's just the
We're
latest
just
fake
establishing
news.
that this started a long time ago, this fake news stuff, and these guys are lying. And if you like, I think they're lying. You just want to provoke stuff. So
Could be a paid.
Start
David
yeah.
Brock has paid trolls.
right.
Could be one of them. But there's a lot of good news that the mainstream media is not going to report on, and I don't know if some of you have heard. I didn't know this till about an hour ago.
They are lying. News media is blinded by hate for Trump. That's exactly
Amen.
right.
That is right. Today, how many of you know that there was an executive order today laying the groundwork for mandating
Reforming all of welfare. Trump is
yeah.
has directed departments of housing and urban development, human services, and other agencies to look at how they grant these benefits and start trying to move people to work. And he talked a lot about this. It got kind of overshadowed by some other bigger things, but we're kind of getting back to the welfare reform of the 90s that's actually been proven to work.
Right. Yeah, Obama took out the provisions that the Clinton and the Republican House and Senate had put in there, which greatly reduced the welfare rolls. And then Obama wrote, I'm pretty sure he wrote an executive order giving the
and
waivers.
he allowed states to do waivers and things, so they just regressed on that. And you saw the explosion in food stamps and things like that during the Obama years.
The lying news media won't tell you the good news. That's another
That's
way
exactly
that they report fake news. Is it's not just about misinformation that they report. They also, it's what they leave off and what they don't report. Another good thing that's gone on is everybody was freaking out about Daca, and Trump's going to sign Daca, and I think Trump knew when he brought that up. He knew the Democrats were not going to buy off on it or agree to anything, because it's kind of like the Israelis and the Palestinians. The Palestinians are never going to give up that they want that perpetual excuse for. They don't want to solve the problem of peace.
Trump called their bluff, and they folded. And now, I mean, they didn't even put it in the budget not a budget, but the omnibus bill last month. And so he called their bluff, and I think he knew what he was doing. And all the screaming about, oh, Trump's going to cave on Daca. Let's sometimes on some of these stories you got to wait a few days, not just one or two.
Right.
Sometimes you got to wait a few days to see what actually happens, and actually you wait a few weeks, and now Daca's not even really up there for the Democrats. They're not even really talking about it. Of course, Kamala Harris is, because she's going to be a presidential candidate, but it's not front and center.
Yeah. If Iran became nuclear, we can thank Obama. This is true. We can thank Obama for a lot of things.
Well, Syria is still chemical because Obama let that happen too. They said they were out. The troll's at it again.
Is he? Trump killed Daca, then blaming it. Now he's calling him up. Okay, whatever. Let him troll. Democrats turned their back on Daca, right?
Yeah,
and it's not a good look. And I think a lot of the people on the left realize that. I don't know if a lot of you have seen that the left in California, they're protesting at some of her, at Nancy Pelosi's meetings and stuff. So they're seeing that. Also, today, just a little while ago, we heard that, is it Rosenstein? Rosenstein has released.
He let Trey Gowdy and was it Mark Meadows look at the
I
not
can't
Mark
remember
Meadows,
who.
but I can't remember who
Nunes.
it was. Nunes. Yeah, Nunes and Gowdy got to look at the 2-page document that they were looking for, and about to hold them in contempt and go into impeachment proceedings against Ray and Rosenstein, and suddenly they folded somewhat. We still don't have the FISA warrant that started all this, but hopefully that's coming.
But it's definitely it's great news, because the only reason they released this document is because Sessions that had it was Nunes that had threatened to not only what was he going to do?
He
was going to hold them in.
Them also.
He was going to hold them in contempt and then impeach them.
And impeach both of them.
And so hopefully we can just continue on with that kind of pressure. But also what's lost in the mix of fake news and also what's going on in Syria is that China, everyone was freaking out about China and the trade wars, and they've, I mean, I don't know if I'd say they've caved,
they haven't folded, but
they've compromised.
They're talking about lowering of tariffs.
Right.
Talking about they've actually brought up their intellectual property stealing. They basically force companies that want to do business there to turn over their proprietary information, and nobody talks about that much, but that's part of what Trump is hitting at too. So I never thought there was going to be a trade war, but if something was going to happen, it was going to hurt China a lot worse. And I'm not worried about them holding a lot of treasuries either, because if they do something, they need us to be able to pay those treasuries back.
Right.
They own treasuries, but they don't own us.
Right. But, the China issue, we see the same issue on just about everything. I'm not going to say that the omnibus was a good thing. I don't think it was. And hope, Trump signing that bill and saying that he would never do it again. I hope that he means that. But I'm not going to say everything that has been great with Trump. But on all these issues, China, Daca, taxes, all these different things, people freaked out over nothing, and Trump ends up winning, and the American people end up winning. So people need to calm down. Although the issue on Syria might be a little bit more. Come here, Melly. Let me get her. Come here. All right. But the issue with Syria too, I would also caution freaking out over that. I know a lot of people think we're going into war, that we're gonna. It looks like that, but I'm gonna hold my breath on that one too, and just wait and see.
Yeah.
They're making a big deal of it.
It's a little scarier, but hopefully there's some behind-the-scenes actions going on with other allies and such, that maybe it's a strong posturing that doesn't have to result in in actual warfare. I know we're not going to invade. We have already got a couple thousand troops there. But those guys on the ground are in peril too if something like this lights up too much. But I'm going to keep praying for that.
Yeah.
One thing I forget myself, and we need to remind all of ourselves, is that God has all of this in His hands.
Absolutely.
And it's all under His control, no matter what's going to happen. So.
And it does seem like through all of this, even starting in the election, that divine intervention has been stepping in for us all the way. I mean, when Hillary collapsed on 9/11,
mm-hmm.
after we'd all been talking about her health, and man, I've seen just so many of those different things that things weren't going our way, and then something else happened, and I believe it was divine intervention. Liberals, he said Trump is helping even stupid liberals. That's true. They're having more. They have more pay in their paychecks, right? Trump won't go to complete war, and I think that's true.
Yep. But part of the deterrent is the enemy knowing that you will. I think.
Right. And or not knowing what you're going to do.
Not knowing what you're going to do.
Fearing what you are going to do. Also on just in history, if you want to mention what's gone on the.
Some just little footnotes, things that have happened in history. Handel's Messiah was first performed in Dublin. I think it was in 1743, maybe. Jefferson was born on the Ides of April, Thomas Jefferson. The Pony Express made its way to Sacramento, California back in, I think it might have been 1863. And that's really all we've got for historical footnotes on the Ides. But we want to keep coming back to you each month on the Ides, and that's why we're calling it the March of Ides and tying it in with what a good job Trump is actually doing. And, trolls notwithstanding. But
it could have been so different.
It could have been, and it still is different. It could have been so much worse. The bullet we dodged when he was elected, and I don't know, we don't know the shockwaves that were sent through D.C. and elsewhere when he was confirmed that he had won the election. These people were so sure that he was done for, that Hillary was in there. And I just can't imagine where we would be right now if Hillary had been president this whole time.
Oh my, we'd already be in war, don't you think? We'd already be in Syria last year when they tried to get us in last year. But, other things to be hopeful for about, big tech is trying to censor influential accounts on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And just this week, Diamond and Silk had their Facebook page suspended, and Mark Zuckerberg up there in Congress testifying, and as he's testifying,
on his pillow.
Yeah, on his pillow, his cushion. They got their page back, but I want to encourage people. The right are too polite. They're not.
Yeah.
The left. They boycott. They protest, and I think what we've seen this week especially shows you with the not just this week, but with the Parkland shooting and the boycotting a lot of people did, dropping off of Laura Ingraham's show, and then the pushback from conservatives. All it takes is to fight fire with fire. That when we start boycotting, we win just like they do. And on the Diamond and Silk, we pushed back. We made phone calls to our leaders, and we've seen our leaders ask those questions of Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't think they would have done that.
If they had not, if people had not come to the defense, and I'm glad they were able to announce what happened to them on Twitter, what happened to them on Facebook, so that many more people could see and defend them. We've all got to defend each other.
Yeah.
And we need to stop having turf battles. And I want to use this time to I just remembered Shapiro had a tweet today, and he said the main reason for Trump's failures on the legislative agenda and he listed Trump first and McConnell second and Ryan third, and then said most people have this backwards, and I just think he has it ass backwards.
Yeah.
And this goes back to, I think, him being in the Ted Cruz camp and not getting over it completely. He has defended Trump on some things, but he's got his little turf going. And I've been a big fan of Ben Shapiro in the past, but I'm starting to get a little, I don't know, piqued with him because his little comments are not helpful. And I don't, I understand not blindly following somebody, but who would you have? I mean, if you didn't want Trump, you had to have Hillary. So who would you have had in his place? And not one of those other 17 Republican candidates on stage would have us anywhere near where we are today, especially with the economy.
Yeah, and stop punching right. I mean, that's the thing about Ben Shapiro. I'm not a huge fan, but this is a big tent. There's room for us all, and his, the division. He helps create the division. He's doing the left's work when he does things like that. And I would just encourage people. I still like Ben Shapiro as a debater and a staunch supporter of life. And that's great, but gosh, and with Roseanne and her show showing people that we can agree to disagree and still be a family and not shun family members. There's left and right, and then there's factions within the right that need to just unite and fight this war, because we are at war. I mean,
existential war, and it's not just the politics. We're trying to save this country, and I know Ben Shapiro sees what dire straits we were in. People like Ben, we need to come together and find a way to agree on some things.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll wrap this up. I meant to put the title of my blog in the title, but it's Yvonne Burton, YVONNEBURTON.net, and at the top of that page is my most recent post about the fake news we were just talking about, Janet Cook and the Washington Post Pulitzer Prize. And go and read that, because the things that are going on now with the mainstream media and fake news, they've been going on for decades, and I guess we just didn't know.
They've gotten better at it too.
Yeah.
So they've improved.
Well, they've improved, but Ben disagrees with so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. They've improved, but it's not working the way that it used to. Like they're using an old playbook, and they need to update that playbook for the age of the internet. And I hope they don't update it, because I want to beat them. But this fake news thing has been going on for way longer than anybody knows. So when breaking news pops up, give it several hours, because especially if it's New York Times, Washington Post, or one of these mainstream, BuzzFeed,
AP, Politico. I mean, we can go down
the
the
Hill.
list.
God, there's so many. Yeah, don't buy into it, because
Chill out, have an IPA or
a
cup
glass
of
of
coffee,
wine,
and just let them get to their retractions the next day.
Right. So we'll wrap this up for now, but please do go and check out that blog post, and then I don't know what day the Ides falls on next month.
I believe it's on the 13th again.
13th again?
Month. Most of them are the 13th.
So we'll either be doing it on the 13th or a day or two before, and hope you'll come back and hear the good news that's going on that the mainstream media won't report. So, thanks.
See you guys on the next Ides.
Thanks for watching.